One of the things that goes hand in hand with the legendary Golf GTI is Tartan seats, and only 2 of all of the Golf GTIs didn't have Tartan seats, and funnily enough, these are usually considered to be the least favourites, the Mark III and Mark IV. Now, not saying there's a correlation, but how did it all begin? How did plain Jane Volkswagen of all people introduce such a funky new interior? Well, as part of the celebration of 50 years of our favourite Volkswagen, we decided to do some research, and it turns out it's all down to one woman who was tasked with injecting some spice into Volkswagen's hot hatch. It seems to be a common thought that humour with the Germans is lacking. The designs are very prim and proper, no frills, no nonsense, sensible, utilitarian design. As you can see by comparing different cars of the time, say the 70s, for example our Mercedes and our Volkswagens versus anything that the French or even the British were doing. I mean, say what you want about the fucking Allegro steering wheel, but you know, at least it was different. You can kind of see what I mean. The Germans were never going to break the mould, but they were responsible for pioneering the design as we know it today. If you hop into a Citroen DS, for example, it's going to take you a little bit of time to adjust to how different it is, but if you hop into a Golf or something else at the time, it's going to take you far less time to adjust, such as how far ahead of their time they were. I mean, there's a reason there's no square steering wheels today. But in 1976, Volkswagen did decide to break the mould by taking their fuel-injected setup from an Audi and plugging it into their small family hatchback, the Golf. They proved that performance could be practical and you didn't need to shove an engine in the back of the car to do it. I know some people are going to argue that Barth maybe got there first with a hot hatch and some others, but realistically, today, people consider the Golf GTI to be the first true practical hot hatch. Designed in secret after some less than stellar reviews of the Volkswagen's prior sporting models, the head of Volkswagen Press and the head of Volkswagen Engineering got together with a small team of just 8 people to create the legendary GTI. That is, until Volkswagen themselves got involved, and they decided that this new hot hatch needed some unique interior features to distinguish it from the bog standard Golfs on the forecourt. After all, if you're spending a lot more money to get something sporty, you want to feel like it. So, they tasked Volkswagen's only female designer at the time, Gunhild Dillquist? Fuck, I don't know. Look, I'm gonna write it down. They tasked her with injecting some life into this hot hatch. Get it? Inject. Injection. Ha! Gunhild joined Volkswagen's design team in 1964, aged just 28, in the fabrics and colours department. Both exterior and interior, she worked primarily on choosing trims, exterior paint colours, and fine touches to interiors. Initially though, she started out in life as a porcelain painter, as well as designing boxes for sweets and biscuits. This was quite a lucrative game at the time, as biscuit tins and things were actually something your granny would have kept, and it would have been a family heirloom back then. One of the most famous examples of this, not by Gunhild, mind you, is this biscuit tin right here, where somebody was leaving the company and decided to have a little bit of fun with the biscuit tin. And if you look along it closely, you'll see there are 2 dogs having sex. The marmalade says shit on it, and then the background under the tree, there's a couple getting it on. Needless to say, it was definitely his last day, whether he wanted it to be or not. And yes, this is one of those very tins. Don't ask why we have it. Anyway, Gunhild was faced with a challenge. Add character within the confines of what your average unassuming German person would accept. What she came up with became 2 of the most beloved features of a GTI. Tartan seats and a golf ball gear knob. I know this episode is about the Tartan, but in the words of my creepy doctor, let's get a look at that knob. We'll talk about it first because, well, it can be over pretty quickly. It is literally as it says on the tin. It was inspired by golf balls. There's not much more to it, really. Okay, we should clarify first of all, it's not as super obvious as you think. The Golf was actually named after the Gulf winds. Much like some of VW's other cars at the time were named after winds, like the Scirocco. But there's still definite debate as to where it came from, whether it was the wind, the sport, or apparently now also a horse. Personally, I stick to the wind story because, I mean, Volkswagen also had the Passat and the Scirocco at the time. both other types of winds. And the pre-production names for the Golf were also other variants of weather as well. I mean, we didn't get a Volkswagen Rugby, but we did get a Volkswagen Polo. Anyway, we're rambling. The golf ball gear knob was literally to do with golf the sport. Fox dead. The Tartan, however, has a much more interesting story if you couldn't give less than two shits about golf, such as myself. I mean, don't get me wrong, each to their own, but unless it's like fucking Wii Sports Golf or Mr. Golf in PS2, I don't really care. Anyway, the Tartan actually has much more of a personal connection to Gunhild than just a random sport. It was actually inspired by her own trips to Britain in the late 60s and early 70s. Tartan, back in the day at least, was seen as a very regal and well-to-do fashion statement reserved for higher-ups and the monarchy. However, with the establishment and rise of the punk scene in Britain, Tartan became associated with renegades and fucking the system, turning the rich's fashion against them. Perfect for Volkswagen's little rebellion, considering the project was done in secret. So, Gunhild had chosen her fabric, a striking black and red pattern which is far removed from the Tartan that we have today. VW called the pattern Clark, after the famed racing driver Jim Clark. A lot of racing cars back in the day would have had tartan seats, for example the Mercedes SLR with its blue tartan that Sterling Moss drove. Nowadays it's known as Clark Plaid, which is wrong. Tartan and plaid are actually completely different, which is something I had no idea about until I started researching this video. For you see, in tartan the pattern is always the same. Perfect lines no matter which way you look at them. Plaid is different. Things are sort of offset or in different places depending on which way you look at them. The original GTI is tartan, modern GTI is plaid. The more you know. Another fun fact about Gunhild, you can also thank her for how your metallic paint looks today. Her experimentation with transparent foils and colours led to metallic paint having a super fine finish that we know today. Hello, it's that bit again where I interrupt the video and be like, hello, we've got a web store now, you should go to the link that I'm gonna put here and you should buy a t-shirt from us so that we can buy more shitty cars and do more of the videos that we really enjoy doing, where we buy shit boxes from somewhere and try and drive them home. Yes, we have a web store and we design more obscure t-shirts and t-shirts related to each video that we do. This video's t-shirt is inspired by, well, this video, but also it's called Tangled Up in Plaid, and that's the Queens of the Stone Age reference, the greatest band ever made. Ever made? Ever formed? Whatever. Anyway, feel free to go and buy one. It's got the Mark 6 GTI on it, it's got the Clark Plaid or whatever the fuck they're calling it by the time it got to the Mark 6. Anyway, links below, feel free to go check it out. It's the only way we make money. We're not fucking sponsored or anything because people don't like it when we swear. Well no, sorry, advertising companies don't like it when we swear. You guys fucking love it when we swear, so we're gonna keep swearing, but you know, if you wanna do that, you need to find other ways of getting money in, so buy a t-shirt. Anyway, back to the show. After a colourful career at Volkswagen, yeah, I thought you'd like that one, Gunhild retired in 1991. But however, long after she's retired, the tartan seats and the golf ball gear knob remain as synonymous with the GTI as anything else, other than maybe the red stripe on the grille. With the introduction of the Mark II Golf, the tartan continued. Whilst the idea from the original lived on, the pattern itself did not, and it took an altogether more subdued look. For the Mark III and IV, it would disappear altogether. But with the introduction of the Mark V GTI, considered by many to be the saving grace of the namesake, the Tartan was back, and in my opinion, to be honest, better than ever. With the introduction of the Mark VI and the Mark VII, we got what I consider to be my favourite of the Tartan, and is actually readily purchasable as material, and is very commonly retrimmed into older seats by people today, which Volkswagen then again changed with the introduction of the Mark VIII. While other seating options were available throughout the years, from leather to Recaro, realistically it's Tartan that makes a GTI a GTI, and we have Gunhild to thank for going against what the company wanted, because they did actually go against the Tartan for a while, and giving us the most iconic seat pattern possibly ever made. So I hope you enjoyed this little history lesson on Volkswagen. We've been doing a little bit of a series on them here with the whole 50 years of golf thing, so we thought, you know, we're a golf channel, it'd be good to feed the people some information. I'm actually staggered by the feedback that we've had and the views that we've had in those last two Volkswagen videos. This is like unprecedented. This is even bigger than the movie that we did when we went to Scotland. Like, this is holy shit balls. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody who has bought t-shirts, who's subscribed to the channel, who's watched it, who's shared it, who's commented on it. And thank you so much to all the people that have actually like corrected us. I know that probably sounds weird to say, but it's difficult looking at certain topics. For example, the China one, there's fuck all available on that online, and I searched as much as I could, but honestly the people who've been coming in and saying I'm from China or I've been to China, this is what it's like and this is how they are, you can't get that information anywhere else. So honestly, like, if there's any information you can correct us on, please feel free, because we really appreciate it. It's the only way people can learn, because nobody knows everything about anything. It's just not true. So by our comment section having little tidbits of information by people who do know, fuck, it's like a wee encyclopedia of Volkswagens on our channel. So it's really cool. So thank you so much to everybody who chipped in with the information that they had that we didn't know. So yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching. The link to our shop is back further in the video if you want to go and buy a t-shirt or a tote bag or whatever. Thank you so much. Feel free to subscribe, tell your friends, blah blah blah. Good luck.